It was December 2017, and we were already having conversations about bringing coffee and making these connections. And I was like, we need a name. Then I saw UnaTaza. I'm like, oh, but that is so general. I was not sure, but then I just started like writing it down, and it just stayed with me. So, UnaTaza. I grew up in Tegucigalpa. It's the capital city of Honduras. Growing up, my grandma and my grandpa were the ones who picked me up at school every afternoon. And then after lunch, it will be for sure a café con leche. That is a little bit of coffee, a lot of milk, and a lot of sugar. I think I was like 6 years old when I started drinking coffee. I never thought that I was going to someday live in the United States. I didn't even know about Kentucky growing up, and here I am. I had the opportunity to stay longer in the country and study my master's degree in San Antonio, Texas. I also had a student loan like many people here, and for me, I had no option then start working and paying that loan back. I started working in Cincinnati for a company because they needed someone bilingual. Started noticing how northern Kentucky and Cincinnati were so different from other states that I have visited before. People talk here about like, oh, you're from the east side, west side. And I was like, oh, that's very similar to Tegucigalpa, to where I grew up. I started like really loving this place, and it just felt home. I promised myself, Alejandra, you will go at least once a year back to Honduras and see your parents and your family. And someone will always come with me from here, even a coworker, or when I was in school, a friend, classmate. And one of the things they will always say on their way, it was like, Honduras is so beautiful, it's completely different, the perspective that I have now. I thought, okay, this is my opportunity. I can take people to Honduras, I give them a tour, and I will charge them, and that way it can also cover my expenses. One of the first things they will do is Google Honduras, and they will see the alert of the US Embassy that you should not travel there. So that was like a bad idea, and it didn't work out. I wanted to do something that I would have the flexibility to be able to go to Honduras and spend time with my family. So I have always loved coffee. It has always been part of me, my family, the culture, and that's where everything started to trigger. I started and I'm thinking, okay, what part of the process I want to be. The first thing was I'm going to sell the coffee to local roasters in Cincinnati. Then I talked with Katia, the owner of the plantation where we are collaborating right now. She said, how about I send you a bag of coffee? Yeah, sure, send it and I'll start selling it. Well, that huge truck arrived to my neighborhood, and I just see this guy pulling things out from a pallet, and he's like, yo, here, he put it on the sidewalk, and then I'm like, oh, can you bring it inside? He's like, no, I'm not allowed to do it. I'm like, 152 pounds of green coffee, I have no clue what to do. I start going to some roasters and leaving samples. When all of them, different interactions, one thing they agree was like, where did you get this coffee? Like, this is good and very high quality. And I'm like, I have good coffee then. That also taught me there's where a roaster that wanted to skip me. So that way I didn't have to be part of the process. So now I'm not going to sell it to the roaster. That's when I learned, like, okay, no, I want to sell the cup. That was the first time I had an event, and they say, okay, you can set up there, but we need your health department license, we need your license for operation. I'm like, I don't have anything of these. I thought like I could just stand there and just start selling. And yeah, and then people were like, oh, your coffee, people were trying to look, or the next coffee fest, like, oh, I remember you guys, you had like best coffee, and we have been wanting to contact you again, but we didn't know where. And then it was like, we need a place. And that week, I looked on social media for Dayton Kentucky pages. found that Dayton Kentucky Main Street, and they were having a meeting for the Main Street that week. During those meetings, they mentioned it's like they want community. If there's one thing I learned about coffee, it just brings community together. That's where I put my heart then. I was like, okay, it's Dayton. We want to bring more Honduran coffee. Right now, we're just working with one farm. We have tasted also coffee from Santa Barbara, which is north, and El Paraíso on the east side. I would like to have coffees from these different regions and also be able to have those direct partnerships and be able to help more communities. But for that, we need more people to buy UnaTaza coffee here.